Hey there, my name is Kelsey Long. Today we're going to be covering multimedia and the impact it has on memory. So today this presentation is going to cover an overview of memory, the types of memory, application of tools that we can use in the classroom to help students take experiences and things that we're trying to teach them, and move those things from short-term memory into their long-term memory bank. We're going to talk about principles of multimedia learning, the impact of multimedia on memory, and then we'll finish up with our final thoughts. And I will be sure to get this presentation sent to you at the end so that if you need to review anything back or there's a few videos in this presentation, you can watch those at your own time. So, starting with the memory overview. The first type of memory we're going to talk about today is sensory memory. So, this is the first filter of everything that you sense and perceive. Now, if you decide that you're going to pay attention to something, it gets passed on from the sensory memory to your short term memory. And your short term memory is a space that allows you to hold on to ideas or thoughts long enough to take action. Um, but most things are discarded out of short term memory, and there are a few things that get coded into our long term memory from the short term memory. So, long term memory is the closet where we store information that we keep for a while. So, I'm going to show you a quick example. I love this clip of Dory from the movie Nemo with short term memory.
Will you quit it? What? I'm trying to swim here. What, the ocean isn't big enough for you or something like that? Huh? You got a problem, buddy? Huh? Huh? Do you? Want a piece of me? Yeah. Ooh, I'm scared now. What?
Wait a minute.
Stop following me, okay?
What are you talking about? You're showing me which way the boat went.
A boat? Hey, I've seen a boat. It passed by not too long ago. It went, this way. It went this way. Follow me.
Wait a minute. What is going on? You already told me which way the boat was going.
I did? Oh, no.
If this is some kind of practical joke, it's not funny. And I know funny. I'm a clownfish.
No, it's not. I know it's not. I'm so sorry. See, I suffer from short-term memory loss.
Short-term memory loss. I don't believe this.
No, it's true. I forget things almost instantly.
So, before we talk about the types of memory, the short term memory example you just saw was about Dory, who is looking for, or I'm sorry, not Dory, the clownfish that you saw in this clip is looking for the boat that just passed. And Dory had just told the clownfish where the boat was going and had already forgotten. So, that's an example of short term memory. This is also something that in our everyday lives, this may be something where if you're writing down a phone number, once you use that phone number, you don't remember it, you throw it away, you don't need it anymore, you've already used that information, and you can then discard that. Now, some things like your phone number that you use every single day, that might get stored into your long-term memory. So the different types of memory, we're going to start by talking about declarative or semantic memory. Then we'll talk about episodic memory, conditioned memory, procedural memory, and flashbulb memory. So declarative or semantic memory is things that you can talk about, different facts. This might be your zip code or your address, might be your phone number. They're very quick things that you can recall. The episodic memory is an experience. It's a form of a declarative memory, but it's specific to stories that have happened to you. This might be a story of what happened to you at school one day, or what happened to you when you were cooking spaghetti one evening for dinner. So these are memories that we pull from experience. Now, a conditioned memory, and I'm going to show you guys a funny little clip, is a reaction to a certain trigger. So in this video, you're going to see someone shaking a bag of cat treats, and I want you to watch what the cat does. So as you saw with the cat, the owner or the person shaking the bag of treats has probably done that a few times before. And that cat has a conditioned memory. When the cat hears the food shaked, he's excited or she's excited for the treat and comes running. So a conditioned memory is just a certain trigger that, or a reaction to a certain trigger. Procedural memory is just performing a procedure. This is something like riding a bike. This is something like maybe driving your car. These are things that you've learned how to do that you really don't have to think much about once you've learned them and you're doing them, because you have muscle memory and you've learned how to do this activity, and it's just a procedure that you know and you can draw from and you're able to complete it. Now, a flashbulb memory is for an emotionally charged event. A lot of times with a flashbulb memory, we think of something catastrophic. So, in these pictures, you see examples of 9/11 and the Twin Towers. That's a great example of a flashbulb memory, but this could also be something like the birth of a child or a wedding. It's a very significant, emotionally charged memory for you. So we're going to talk a little bit about the application of tools. So this first one is an experience. So when we have our students learning, it's important that the material they learn go into their long-term memory. That's our goal. We don't want them to just memorize something for a test and then be done. So one of the things that we can do as teachers is to provide a hands-on experience. So as you see in this photo, there's a teacher who's showing students how to use some type of smart tablet or table, and they're getting the opportunity to explore and be hands-on as the teacher is sharing what they need to do. So from that hands-on experience, whatever the material is that they're learning, they can, as they go forward in the future, draw on the experience that they had um, to pull that into their long-term memory bank. And as they go into their future, we would hope that it would stay in their long-term memory. Now, another tool is chunking. So instead of giving all of the material at one time, you can actually chunk your material into sections. And that really helps not just students, but anyone in general be able to break apart the information so that it's manageable. We don't want to overwhelm a learner because that can cause them to not get as much of the information inputted. And if they're able to chunk the learning so that it's manageable, the material can hopefully go from the working memory into the short term and then into the long term memory. And then another tool is role playing. So as you see in this picture, we've got two students who are playing grocery store. We've got someone that's kind of working at the register there or the fruit stand there, and then we've got someone pushing the doll in the stroller with the shopping bag shopping for the food. Now, role playing as a child, doing that over and over repetitively or just a few times, that is giving that child and that student an opportunity to take their working memory, take those into short term and then long term. And when they go into the grocery store later on, they can draw from experiences that they've had through role playing. Now, the principles of multimedia learning. This video, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, it's about 14 minutes long, does a great job of showing the 14 principles of multimedia learning. And I'm just going to quickly do an overview of them instead of playing the video. But like I said at the beginning of this presentation, I will provide you with the link to these videos in case you'd like to go back and watch them. So, one of the principles of multimedia learning is that we can learn when words are presented as a narration versus on-screen text. So that's called a modality principle. So instead of me typing out everything I'm saying now, I'm giving you a narration, I'm talking to you, and that actually helps you with with learning what I'm saying more than if I were to just put the text on the screen and you read it. Now, another part of multimedia learning, one of the other principles is the voice principle. So words are spoken in a standard accent, human voice rather than a machine or a foreign accent. So I'm speaking to you in my normal voice. I don't have a robot from the computer reading this to you or speaking to you. And so it helps you to understand the material a little better. There are, like I said, 14 principles of multimedia learning, and these really can help us as we are thinking about ways that we can present to our students to promote deeper learning. Um, this is also when, you know, texts and pictures are by each other. For example, in this next section, I'm going to talk about the impact of multimedia on memory. You can see there's a graphic here, and the text is by the specific graphic. So I don't have all of the text kind of in one pile. You can see the picture in the lower left corner of the human memory text that is actually on the skull of the person instead of just being thrown over on the side of the screen. So this is an example of the way that multimedia can affect our memory. There are so many different cues that we rely on. And as we have an actual experience, our memory draws on the cues of things that we have done previously. This might be background knowledge. This might be that role playing from when we were a child. This might be information that has been chunked for us. And we take those cues, and ideally, we would be learning, and our experiences would come from our working memory and then move into short term memory. And then as we actually have experiences using things in our short term memory, they would eventually process into our long term memory. So, my final thoughts would be that multiple types of memories that we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. For every type of memory, it's important for us to chunk information. Converting a working memory to a long term memory is the goal. By providing an experience to a student, we're able to do that. And when designing a presentation or material for students, it's important to think about how we as teachers can get that material into their long term memory. And then what can the learner or the student do to retrieve the information later, which is where the experience part comes into play. Because learners are constantly having information that's being input, it's important to have our information be significant to the learner so that we can attract their attention. So, as I previously mentioned, chunking information, it's important not to overwhelm the learner, and to chunk information so it's manageable. And it's also important for us to recognize that as teachers, we need to utilize different types of multimedia tools to improve the likelihood that material is retained. So, as you're planning lessons for your students, as you're planning professional development with your other teachers, I encourage you to think about ways that you can use the 14 principles of multimedia to your advantage to help facilitate memory, and especially long term memory for our students and faculty members here. Um, and I really just appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Thank you so much.